And I
Just when you thought you knew every living legend in country music, here come 11 more old country stars who've quietly defied time. They may no longer top the charts, but their voices, stories, and surprise comebacks still echo through honky-tonks and hearts across America. Some are still performing, others are living in quiet retirement. But one thing's for sure, they're still alive, and their journeys will leave you amazed, inspired, and full of respect. The Cosmic Cowboy, who never stopped singing. Born May 6, 1945, age 80 as of 2025. If you've ever wandered into a dusty record shop or caught the sound of something strange and beautiful drifting from a late-night radio station, chances are you've heard Jimmy Dale Gilmore. With his haunting, high tenor, and philosophical lyrics, Gilmore has long been a cult hero, an artist too poetic for pop country, too country for folk, and too timeless to fade. And at 80 years old, this cosmic cowboy is still alive, still recording, and yes, still performing. Born in Amarillo, Texas, and raised in Lubbock, the same town that gave the world Buddy Holly, Gilmore absorbed the best of both worlds: traditional country storytelling and the psychedelic freedom of 1960s counterculture. He co-founded the Flatlanders in the early 1970s alongside Joe Ely and Butch Hancock, a trio that would become legendary for their offbeat blend of country, folk, and mysticism. Though the Flatlanders' first album didn't find commercial success at the time, it later achieved near-mythical status. Gilmore's song Dallas became an underground anthem, and his unmistakable voice was instantly recognizable. Pure, lonesome, and floating somewhere between Buddha and Bob Wills. He spent the 1980s studying Eastern philosophy, living simply, and making music on his own terms. In the 1990s, he returned with a string of acclaimed solo albums, like Spinning Around the Sun and After a While, earning Grammy nominations and the respect of critics, musicians, and serious fans of authentic Americana. You may also recognize him from an unexpected role, the pacifist bowler Smokey in the cult film The Big Lebowski. Yes, that was him. But Jimmy Dale Gilmore was never about fame. He's about meaning and truth through song. Even now, he continues to perform intimate shows across and the Western U.S., often reuniting with the Flatlanders or sharing the stage with his son, Colin Gilmore. His voice may have grown softer with age, but it's still full of wonder. Because Jimmy never chased the charts, he chased clarity. And in doing so, he created a sound that never aged. He once said, "I don't sing to be understood. I sing to connect with something deeper." At 80, he still does. Number 2. Michael Martin Murphey, the singing cowboy who never left the saddle. Born March 14, 1945, age 80, as of 2025. You may remember him from his 1975 smash hit Wildfire, a ghostly ballad about a doomed horse and its rider. But Michael Martin Murphey is no one-hit wonder. He's a lifelong cowboy poet, a protector of Western heritage, and at 80 years old, a country star who never stopped riding. Murphy's roots run deep in the American Southwest. Born in Texas and raised in the traditions of cowboy lore, he fused country music with the wide-open soul of the Western Plains. His songs weren't about beer and trucks. They were about cattle drives, lonesome trails, and the dusty beauty of forgotten land. After breaking through the folk and rock scenes in the late 1960s, he rebranded as Michael Martin Murphey in the 1980s and leaned fully into Western music, a subgenre steeped in tradition, storytelling, and pride. Albums like Cowboy Songs and River of Time introduced him to a new generation who hadn't heard a fiddle played like that in years. But Murphy didn't just sing about the West, he lived it. He's a real-life rancher, conservationist, and passionate advocate for land rights and the Western way of life. He tours regularly across rural America, playing festivals, rodeos, and small-town theaters, venues where his stories aren't just music, they're shared memories. Over the decades, Murphy has released over 30 albums, earned multiple gold records, and built one of the most loyal fan bases in country music. His Cowboy Christmas tours have become beloved annual traditions, drawing crowds from all over the country. And in 2025, he's still at it, still recording, still speaking up for ranchers in rural America, and still reminding us that cowboy songs aren't relics, they're living traditions. Murphy once said, "Country music tells you who you are, Western music tells you where you are. And at 80, he's still doing both. Now, we spotlight a man with one of the most recognizable last names in country music. But this artist carved his own legacy with heartbreak ballads, tight duets, and a voice full of raw country soul. Number 3, David Friselle, the brother in the shadow who became a star in his own right. Born September 26, 1941, age 84, as of 2025. When your last name is Friselle, expectations are sky high. His older brother, Lefty Friselle, was one of the most influential country singers of all time, a voice that inspired Merle Haggard, Willie Nelson, and George Jones. But David Friselle didn't just ride the coattails of his brother's legacy. He built his own path, slowly, steadily, and on his own terms. And now, at 84 years old, David is still alive, still recording, and still waving the flag of traditional country with pride. Born in El Dorado, Arkansas, David began performing as a teenager, opening for his older brother on tour and quickly developing a voice with uncanny similarities. The same emotional phrasing, the same honky-tonk heartbreak. But it wasn't until the early 1980s that he truly found his spotlight. His breakout moment came in 1981 when he teamed up with Shelley West, daughter of Dottie West, for the duet You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma. The song was a smash, hitting #1 on the country charts and becoming a signature anthem of the urban cowboy era. Their chemistry was electric, and the pair followed up with a string of hits, including A Texas State of Mind and Another Honky-Tonk Night on Broadway. David's solo career also flourished with hits like I'm Gonna Hire a Wino to Decorate Our Home, a clever, catchy song that reached #1 in 1982 and remains a classic country jukebox favorite. But what truly sets David apart is his devotion to tradition. He never chased pop country trends or reinvented himself. He stayed faithful to honky-tonk storytelling, with lyrics rooted in real-life struggle, small-town love, and the kind of pain you feel in a quiet bar after midnight. In recent years, David has focused on honoring his brother Lefty's legacy while continuing to release music and tour selectively. He's written books, appeared at Grand Ole Opry events, and collaborated with younger traditionalists, keeping the old sound alive. As of 2025, he's still recording, still engaging with fans, and still singing with that unmistakable Friselle cry in his voice. He once said, I didn't want to be Lefty. I just wanted to keep the music real, and I still do. At 84, David Friselle remains one of country music's last true honky-tonk gentlemen. Number 4, the voice behind the hits who took back her own stage. Born December 19, 1947. Age 78 as of 2025. She was everywhere in the 1980s. On the radio, on award shows, on stage beside country's biggest names. And for a while, Janie Frickett was the voice that defined modern country heartbreak. Now, at 78 years old, she's still alive and still singing for fans who remember when her voice ruled the charts. Born in Indiana and raised on gospel and harmony singing, Janie started her career as a background vocalist in Nashville. You can hear her voice behind hits from Elvis Presley, Crystal Gayle, Ronnie Millsap, and Mo Bandy. Her harmonies were so clear and emotional that producers began pushing her toward the front of the stage. It was a risk. Could the voice in the background carry the spotlight? The answer came loud and clear in the early 1980s, when Janie scored a string of solo hits that made her a chart-topping star. Songs like Down to My Last Broken Heart, Tell Me a Lie, It Ain't Easy Being Easy, and He's a Heartache, Looking for a Place to Happen, showcased her vocal control, emotional depth, and versatility. Janie wasn't just a ballad singer. She could do up-tempo, gospel, and even crossover pop country, all while maintaining a signature elegance. She won 2 consecutive CMA Female Vocalist of the Year awards in 1982 and 1983, a rare feat in a male-dominated era. But as trends shifted in the 1990s toward neo-traditional sounds and younger voices, Janie gradually stepped back from the mainstream. She didn't disappear. She simply moved at her own pace, performing select shows and releasing music on independent labels. In the 2000s and 2010s, she experienced a quiet resurgence. Classic country fans, driven by nostalgia and appreciation for real vocals, rediscovered her work. Janie leaned into this revival, touring more frequently, recording gospel albums, and embracing her legacy. As of 2025, Janie Fricke continues to perform at classic country events, fairs, and intimate venues. Her voice may be older, but it still carries the same ache, the same grace, and the same strength that made her a star. She once said, "The music always came first. Fame was just a byproduct." Today, she sings for those who remember and for those discovering her for the first time. And when she does, there's no mistaking it. Janie's still got it. At number 5, Gene Watson, the singer's singer who never lost his touch. Born October 11th, 1943, age 82, as of 2025. If country music were judged solely by vocal ability, Gene Watson would be in the top tier every time. His voice has been called flawless, effortless, and timeless. And at 82 years old, that golden baritone is still ringing strong. Born in Palestine, Texas, and raised in poverty, Gene started out working in car garages by day and playing honky-tonks by night. His big break came in the mid-1970s with the release of his career-defining hit, Love in the Hot Afternoon. From there, the hits kept coming. Farewell Party, 14 Karat Mind, Paper Rosie, Should I Come Home or Should I Go Crazy? All delivered with perfect pitch, emotional control, and a kind of sadness that was never forced. Gene never screamed. He never tried to reinvent himself. He just sang the truth. And for nearly 50 years, he's been country music's best-kept secret. Beloved by diehard fans, admired by other singers, and respected by everyone in the industry. While the mainstream spotlight often turned toward flashier artists, Gene quietly toured, recorded, and built one of the most consistent discographies in country history. He's released over 30 studio albums with dozens of charting singles, a body of work that rivals anyone of his era. His signature song, Farewell Party, is still used as a vocal benchmark in Nashville, a ballad so challenging that few dare to cover it, and even fewer can do it justice. In 2020, Gene was finally invited to become a member of the Grand Ole Opry, a long overdue recognition of his impact and longevity. He accepted the honor with humility and grace, just as he's handled his entire career. As of 2025, Gene Watson still performs regularly at classic country festivals, the Opry, and theaters across the South. His voice remains remarkably intact, smooth, rich, and heartbreakingly honest. He once said, "I never tried to be modern. I just tried to be good." And in a world that often trades soul for spectacle, Gene Watson is living proof that the good still survives. Mo Bandy, number 6. Mo Bandy, the good timin' honky-tonk hero, who never hung up his hat. Born February 12, 1944, age 81, as of 2025. Some artists tried to modernize country. Mo Bandy did the opposite. He preserved it. With a twang in his voice, a beer in his lyrics, and a broken heart in nearly every chorus, Mo became a honky-tonk legend by keeping it simple and keeping it real. Now 81 years old, Mo Bandy is still alive, still performing, and still beloved by country fans who remember what a steel guitar is supposed to sound like. Born in Meridian, Mississippi, and raised in Texas, Mo grew up rodeoing and listening to Lefty Friselle, Hank Williams, and Ernest Tubb. His music, right from the start, was a throwback to that classic sound, held even as Nashville drifted toward pop influences. In the mid-1970s, Mo broke out with the self-deprecating hit, "I Just Started Hatin' Cheatin' Songs Today." It was the perfect Mo Bandy song, sad, funny, and true. And it set the tone for what would become a steady run of hits, including Bandy the Rodeo Clown, Hank Williams' You Wrote My Life, and It's a Cheatin' Situation. Mo was the guy at the end of the bar, the voice of working men with broken dreams. He didn't glamorize heartbreak, he just sang it. In the 1980s, he teamed up with Joe Stampley for a series of humorous duets, including Just Good Old Boys and Where's the Dress, which showed his playful side and helped broaden his appeal. But through all the novelty songs and top 10 hits, Mo never strayed far from his roots. He kept touring, kept recording, and stayed true to the traditional sound. In the 2000s and 2010s, as younger artists began looking back to the golden age of country, Mo Bandy was suddenly in demand again. He toured with other legends, appeared at traditional country festivals, and released albums that sounded like they could have come straight from a jukebox in 1978. In 2020, he published his autobiography, Lucky Me, reflecting on a career filled with highs, heartaches, and a whole lot of dancing in honky-tonks. As of 2025, Mo still hits the stage, still signs autographs, and still gives fans the music they grew up with, the real deal. He once said, "I never tried to reinvent anything. I just sang country the way it's supposed to be sung." And at 81, Mo Bandy is still singing it. Next, we shine a light on one of the first Latino country stars to break into the mainstream, a man with a velvet voice and a story full of triumph, tragedy, and resilience. Number 7, Johnny Rodriguez, the trailblazer who sang in 2 languages and one truth. Born December 10th, 1951, age 74, as of 2025. Before diversity was a buzzword, before the industry opened its gates to new faces and backgrounds, Johnny Rodriguez walked through the door, guitar in hand, Spanish in his lyrics, and soul in his voice. At 74 years old, Johnny Rodriguez remains one of country music's most important and often overlooked pioneers. And yes, he's still alive, still singing, and still honoring the road he helped pave. Born in Sebinal, Texas, to a large Mexican-American family, Johnny had a rough start. He lost his father at age 16, fell into trouble with the law, and was discovered by accident, literally singing in a jail cell. Texas Ranger Joaquin Jackson overheard his voice and introduced him to music promoter Happy Shahan, who in turn got him an audition with Tom T. Hall. And just like that, the kid from Sabinal was off to Nashville. In 1973, Johnny released his debut single, "Pass Me By If You're Only Passing Through," which quickly became a hit. But it was his follow-up songs like "You Always Come Back" to "Hurting Me" and "Riding My Thumb to Mexico" that turned him into a star. He became the first major Latino artist to top the Billboard country charts, and he did it while mixing English and Spanish in his lyrics, a bold move for the time. Johnny's sound was smooth, heartfelt, and unmistakably country, but infused with Latin phrasing and phrasing that made it uniquely his own. He broke racial and cultural barriers, helping redefine what country music could be. Through the 1970s and early 80s, Johnny Rodriguez released 15 top 10 hits, toured with Willie Nelson and George Jones, and became a frequent guest on the Grand Ole Opry and country TV shows. But fame came with struggles. In the late 80s and 90s, personal demons, including legal battles and addiction, caused his career to stall. For a time, he seemed to disappear from the spotlight, but Johnny never stopped singing. He returned in the 2000s, older, wiser, and still able to deliver a song with more emotion than most singers half his age. His live shows, though fewer, are raw, intimate, and often filled with generations of fans, those who grew up with his music and those discovering him for the first time. As of 2025, Johnny Rodriguez continues to perform at select venues and festivals, especially in Texas and the Southwest. He's embraced his role as a trailblazer and ambassador for Latino artists in country music. He once said, "I didn't set out to break barriers. I just sang what I knew." And in doing so, he changed the sound of country forever. Linda Davis. Linda Davis, the unsung star who let her voice and family shine. Born November 26, 1962, age 63 as of 2025. She may be best known for one of country music's greatest duets, but Linda Davis is far more than a one-song wonder. She's a vocalist's vocalist, admired by her peers, cherished by fans, and now, at 63 years old, still carrying that same blend of warmth, control, and quiet strength that made her a star. Born in Texas, Linda started singing in local clubs as a teenager, eventually moving to Nashville in the early 1980s to chase her dream. For years, she worked as a demo singer and backup vocalist, often praised but rarely pushed to the front of the stage. Then in 1993, her life changed. Reba McEntire, one of the biggest stars in country music, invited her to record a duet, "Does He Love You?" The result? A Grammy-winning, CMA award-winning, chart-topping ballad of betrayal and longing that instantly became a country classic. Linda's soaring, emotionally devastating vocals held their own beside Reba's powerhouse delivery, and in doing so, she introduced herself to the world. But rather than chasing pop stardom, Linda chose a different path. She released solo albums like "Shoot for the Moon" and "Some Things Are Meant to Be," both of which were critically praised and earned her loyal fans. Her voice was subtle, not flashy, but it cut deep. especially on emotional ballads and gospel numbers. Still, Linda made a decision few in her position would have. She chose to prioritize her family. She stepped back from constant touring to raise her children, including her daughter, Hillary Scott, who would go on to become the lead singer of the Grammy-winning group Lady A. In fact, in 2016, Linda joined Hillary and the rest of the Scott family on the faith-based album Love Remains, which earned them 2 Grammy Awards, including Best Contemporary Christian Album. Linda's harmonies were flawless, and as always, full of soul. As of 2025, Linda Davis still performs select shows across the country, often in intimate settings, churches, or alongside her daughter. She remains an example of what it means to sing with purpose. Not for attention, but for connection. She once said, "My voice is a gift. I just try to use it in the right way." And for over 4 decades, she has. Number 9. The soulful outlaw who found redemption through song. Born October 30th, 1954, age 71, as of 2025. Few voices in country music carry as much raw, lived-in emotion as T. Graham Brown. Blending gospel, soul, and southern country grit, Brown stormed through the 1980s like a man with something to prove. And a painful truth to sing. Now, at 71 years old, T. Graham Brown is still alive, still recording, and living proof that you can fall hard and rise even stronger. Born in Georgia, Brown got his start singing jingles for TV commercials in the early 80s. But it didn't take long for that smoky, bluesy voice to catch the attention of Nashville. He broke through in 1985 with his debut album, I Tell It Like It Used to Be, and he meant every word. Hits like Hell and High Water, Darlene, and Don't Go to Strangers gave Brown a distinct place in the genre. He wasn't quite outlaw, wasn't quite soul singer, but something in between. His voice was unpolished, full of gravel and emotion, perfect for telling stories of love, addiction, regret, and redemption. But the themes in his music weren't just for show. Behind the scenes, T. Graham Brown was battling alcoholism, and as the 90s arrived, his career stalled under the weight of personal demons. His chart presence faded. Labels stopped calling. Still, he refused to disappear. In the early 2000s, Brown got sober and began a remarkable comeback. He leaned deeper into gospel music, recording heartfelt albums like Forever Changed, which was nominated for a Grammy in 2015. He started appearing on TV again, joined country cruises and throwback tours, and slowly reclaimed his place in the country music family. Not as a chart chaser, but as a survivor. He became a frequent guest on RFD-TV's Country's Family Reunion and began touring again to packed rooms filled with fans who had followed him through every chapter: the wild years, the fall, the recovery. T. Graham Brown often says, "God ain't through with me yet." And at 71, his voice has only grown deeper, richer, like a Southern preacher who's lived the sermon he's about to deliver. Whether he's belting out a honky-tonk anthem or a gospel cry, Brown sings like his life depends on it, because in many ways, it did. Next, we honor a man whose soft, unmistakable voice and signature beard once made him a mainstay on country radio, and who's still wearing rose-colored glasses. Let's continue with a voice that's as familiar as home, the one and only John Conlee. Number 10. John Conlee, the working man's voice, who never took off his rose-colored glasses. Born August 11th, 1946, age 79, as of 2025. In an industry full of rhinestones and reinvention, John Conlee stood out for being utterly real. A former mortician and disc jockey with a rich, warm baritone, Conlee sang for the people, working class, heartbroken, honest folks, and did it with a sincerity that never went out of style. Now, at 79 years old, he's still alive, still performing at the Grand Ole Opry, and still wearing his signature rose-colored glasses, both literally and metaphorically. Born and raised in Kentucky, Conlee didn't move to Nashville as a teenager chasing stardom. Instead, he spent his early adult years working at a funeral home, then later as a radio DJ. It wasn't until the late 70s that his voice, a low, emotionally resonant tone, caught the ears of Music Row. His breakthrough came in 1978 with Rose-Colored Glasses, a heartbreak song masquerading as an optimist's anthem. But it was no gimmick. The song became a career-defining hit, reaching the top 5 and establishing Conlee as a new kind of country singer, grounded, modest, and deeply human. More hits followed: Backside of 30, Common Man, I'm Only in It for the Love and Friday Night Blues, each one a reflection of real life, sung by a man who had lived it. What made Conley stand out was his authenticity. He didn't dress flashy or chase trends. He showed up in suits and ties with a receding hairline and a serious face. And when he sang, you believed him. He wasn't trying to be a cowboy. He was the guy paying the bills and making the best of it. In the 90s and 2000s, as his radio presence faded, Conley remained a fixture at the Grand Ole Opry, where he's been a member since 1981. He continued recording on his own terms, touring smaller venues, and connecting with fans who grew up hearing his voice in their kitchens and cars. And in 2025, he's still going, still putting on those rose-colored glasses, still delivering working man's prayer with emotion, still showing up where country music means something. He once said, "I always sang about people like me, and people like me still listen." At 79, John Conley hasn't changed, and in a world that moves too fast, that's exactly why we still love him.